proceed very quickly to the awarding of our AMIC Communication Awards. We have 2 awards to bestow. The first one is the 2016 award, followed by the 2017 award. To read the citation for our first awardee, the Asia Communication Awardee for the year 2016, may I call on our Chairman d'Honneur, Dr. Ang Peng Hua.
Group of people here. It feels a bit like what it feels like to be an Oscar award, I guess. Yeah. It's my delight to present this award on Asian communication founders and pioneers. One of the things that I did when I was chairman was institute this, part of the group that instituted this. I'm reminded of the time that I was at a university and it's in the US, and there was a name on the meeting room, Graham Allison. Okay, he's a famous guy. And in the British system, which Singapore is under, in order to have your name on the room, you have to be dead. If you are alive, you can't have a room. So when I walked in, the name of the room was called Graham Allison, and right in front was Graham Allison. And I said, Graham Allison, how come you're alive? It's a room named after you, This is the British system, and I thought it wasn't good. I thought, well, talk about East and West, there are some things from the West that are good. And I think it's good that we honor people who are worthy to be honored while they are still around. So it's my pleasure now to read a citation for Shelton Gunarane. Shelton is one of the pioneers, as you know now, in Asian journalism and mass communication. I didn't know that he was actually teaching at USM. He spent some time at USM, University of Science Malaysia. A strong program in communication. Shelton started his distinguished career as a journalist in Sri Lanka. He went to conquer new journalistic worlds in Malaysia, Australia, and the United States. Go west, young man, he was told. You were told that? You should go east, now you know. He did, like many other Asian communication scholars of his generation, and eventually became the first Sri Lankan to receive a doctorate in mass communication from the US in 1972. He did come back to his roots briefly to conduct pioneering research for a doctoral dissertation at the University of Minnesota. He studied the role of communication in rural development in Sri Lanka. The results were published by AMIC as one of his first research monographs in 1976. He then switched to academia as a journalism educator for the next decade in Malaysia and then Australia. And from there he went to the US to teach at the University of Minnesota, Moorhead, where he retired as a University Emeritus in 2007. Throughout his teaching career in the West, he continued his love affair with Asian journalism and communication. After the year 2000, Gunarane focused his energies on globalizing communication and journalism studies, with his attempt to merge Eastern philosophies, particularly Buddhist and Taoist phenomenology, in a seminal book, The Tao of the Press, which was published in 2005. Gunarane argues in his book that the classic 4 theories of the press, which I guess we're all familiar with, articulated by Siebert, Peterson and Schramm since 1956, and which has become a standard textbook in communication and society courses in Asia and the rest of the Western world, was based on the Eurocentric history, theory and practice. Gunarane said he wrote The Tao of the Press as an attempt to de-Westernize communication theory. This new book interprets press theory from the perspective of Eastern philosophy, particularly Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, and Confucianism. Gunarane proposes a more human-centric theoretical framework that reflects the marriage of Eastern ontology with Western epistemology. His development of a human-centric theory of press freedom presumes a world system that reflects the characteristics of a yin-yang, libertarian, authoritarian, spiral-shaped continuum. You know, it is complex, as you say, imagine. He argues that communication theory must concede the Taoist notion of diversity within unity, varying degrees of freedom in different countries, because it describes the reality of nature. In recognizing Guru Rani's groundbreaking scholarship and intellectual contribution to Asian media and communication research, the Asian Media Information and Communication Center is privileged and honored to recognize Guru Rani as most worthy to receive the 2016 AMIC Asian Communication Award in Research and Education. Shraddha, please.
We would also like to call on Secretary General Ramon Tuaza. We have a plaque and a trophy for our latest AMIC Asia Communication Awardee. This certainly means so much for Dr. Gunaratne, Shelton Gunaratne, Davalasri Shelton Gunaratne, that he really endeavored to come despite his disability. And it gives us much honor and pleasure to give this award to Dr. Gunaratne. We will not let you go as yet. Mr. and Mrs. Gunaratne, please stay close. As well as Chairman Doner and Dr. Maslog, because we will still need you for the second awardee. But for now, we have some words of response from Dr. Gunaratne to be delivered by Mrs. Yoki Gunaratne.
Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, really, everyone. You already know my name is Yoksim Gunaratne, and I will speak on behalf of my husband, Shelton Gunaratne. I'd like to joke to say I'm the better half, but I'm also a team player, so that's my role. And he would like to make the following statement. It is a great honor and privilege to accept the 2016 AMIC Asia Communication Award. I'm happy to meet all the old friends like Crispin Maslow, John Lent, and Ronnie Abdikaria. Congratulations also to Vijay Jayananda Jayavira for his 2017 AMIC Asian Communication Award. I have been one of the original members of AMIC and have now become a life member. I shifted focus from traditional communication strategies, which is very more Western, to a system approach and system thinking on communication. It is important to merge Eastern and Western communication theories to create an approximate universal communication paradigm. From the Eastern theoretical view, communication theory has always been interdependent, interconnected, and interactive. The Western theory has to recognize this reality of globalization and the digital era. Thank you again for the Communication Award.
Thank you, Madam Gunaratne. We will now proceed to the awarding of our AMIC Asia Communication Award for 2017. To read the citation for our next awardee, may we call on former Secretary General Dr. Martin L. Hadlow.
Thank you, Gigi. It's a great honor for me to be here today to talk about someone who is both a friend and a former colleague, Jayananda Jayawira. Jaya, as we know him. Jaya and I first met, I was trying to recall, I think it would have been in the 1980s at the AIBD in Kuala Lumpur. We're both running projects of varying intensity at that time. Jaya had just come from Sri Lanka, where he was operating the Mahaweli Community Radio Project, which was one of the most innovative community radio projects in the world at that time. We ended up working together, as I mentioned, in many parts of the world. We both joined UNESCO, and we followed each other around the world in many ways, and both ended up at headquarters in Paris at one stage, where Jaya was Director of Communication Development Division and Director of the International Program for the Development of Communication, and I was Director of Freedom of Expression, Democracy and Peace at the other end of the corridor. So we shared corridors there. Then our ways parted, and it's a pleasure that we can be here today. And I think this is the first time that Jaya and I have been in the same room for many, many years now. He's a very good colleague and a very good friend. Something that's not mentioned in the citation, which I'm about to read, is some of the difficulties he faced in the early days of his career. It does mention, as you'll hear, that he was with the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. And at that time, unfortunately, Sri Lanka was going through a period and entered a period of civil conflict. I think we can use that expression, which lasted for many, many years. And all media people, no matter whether they were journalists or whether they were in community radio or what aspect of television or radio they were in, were fair game, unfortunately, for some terrible situations. Many were murdered, many had to leave the country, many were injured, and their families also suffered as well. So there was a little bit of background in that to Jaya's career, which you may not know about, and I thought it would be appropriate, Jaya, if I may, to raise the name of a mutual friend and colleague, now unfortunately not with us, Mr. Torben Krogh. Torben was from Denmark. He was the editor of one of the main newspapers in Copenhagen. He was a fantastic advocate for development communication. He eventually became chairman of the IPDC, and Jaya answered to him. But I know that Torben was very protective and mentoring of Jaya in those days, in those very difficult days. I know that he provided a lot of support and help to Jaya and his family at that very difficult time. So if you'll excuse me, Jaya, from bringing Torben's memory to our attention today. Sadly he passed, but he would be very honored if he saw you today and heard that you were receiving this award. In fact, he would prefer to be here, I'm sure, reading the citation. Asia-Pacific's communication media landscape continues to evolve today into a free, developed and dynamic setting. The imprint of Jayananda Jayawira, Jaya, in this continuing transformation cannot be denied. In his career of about 50 years in the communication media sector, starting as a production assistant in 1969 at the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation, through to his distinguished career as UNESCO Director of Communication and the International Programme for the Development of Communication, IPDC, Wijayananda Jayawira has either initiated or introduced revolutionary programs that are redefining communication policies, standards, and programs. The Asian Media Information and Communication Center AMIC 2017 Asia Communication Award recognizes Wijayananda Jayawira for being an innovator in media development. Jaya's initial major contribution to media development was the establishment in 1984 of Mahabali Community Radio, a pioneering Asian community radio project. This facilitated the relocation of nearly 60,000 families under one of the most ambitious resettlement projects implemented by the government of Sri Lanka. Throughout his career, he's played various significant roles in institutionalizing community radio in many other countries, including Bhutan, in Mongolia, Nepal, here in the Philippines, Tambuli Project, Thailand, Vietnam, and these initiatives were under the aegis of UNESCO and the AIBD, amongst many others. As an institution builder, Jaya led the reform process for the Paris-based International Programme for the Development of Communication, successfully reinvigorating it with renewed donor confidence as the main multilateral instrument to support the development of free, independent and pluralistic media in developing countries. He was also instrumental in bringing safety of journalists and the issue of impunity to the Intergovernmental Council of the IPDC and making the Council a global oversight body on the issue of obliging UNESCO member states to report on the judicial follow-up to the killing of journalists in their respective territories. During his tenure as director, he led the crafting and introduction of media development indicators, now regarded as the only set of internationally approved indicators to determine media development needs. It was also under his directorship that UNESCO set the standards for journalism education with UNESCO's model journalism curricula and criteria for instructional excellence applicable to media training institutions. Amongst his other significant initiatives is Media and Information Literacy, MIL as we call it, now a major pillar of UNESCO media development programs. In this age of post-truth, hate speech and fake news, MIL has evolved as a potent tool in empowering media users to be discerning media consumers and responsible and ethical content producers. AMIC also acknowledges the strong partnership forged between AMIC and UNESCO during his incumbency as Regional Communication Advisor for Asia and later as Director of UNESCO's Communication Development Division and IPDC. After his retirement from UNESCO in 2011, Jaya has remained passionate and active in promoting an enabling environment for free, independent and pluralistic media in the Asia-Pacific and throughout the world, as advisor in several communication programs and projects. In recognition of his outstanding contributions to media development, AMIC is proud to present the AMIC Asia Communication Award for 2017 to Wijayananda Jayawira.
Congratulations, Wijayananda Jayawira. Please walk over to the center, sir, for the conferment of the award. We would like to invite the chair of the board of directors to turn over the plaque. And then the trophy coming from the chair d'honneur. And the warm handshake from the Secretary General and the former Secretary General, your friend, Martin. Let's move forward for a short photo op. Thank you all very much. Nobody moves. I'm going to request Dr. Gunaratne and Mrs. Yogi Gunaratne to join them, and we will have another group picture. You know, we have several AMIC Asia Communication awardees in our midst. John, would you please come up? Mr. John Lent was once an awardee. Dr. Braid was a past awardee. It would be wonderful to welcome our two new awardees. After this photo op, we will invite Vijayananda Jayavira for a response. We will have the photo now. My apologies, I'm missing a good friend who's also an Asian Communication awardee. Dr. Vinod Agrawal, please, sir. May we request our two new awardees to carry their plaques for the photo op. Thank you. Thank you all very, very much. We will now prepare to listen to the response of Vijayananda Jayavira, our awardee for 2017.
Dr. Shelton Gunaratne, awardee for 2016 AMIC Award, and my good friend Martin Hadloff, who introduced me, and I'm humbly moved for the honor that I received today. I'm almost completing 50 years of my career by next year, when I started in 1969 as a broadcaster at this SMBC. Now, of course, I'm retired, but I still like to engage with some work, particularly on the area of right to information, which we have developed a new law in Sri Lanka. It is said to be the third best law on right to information. Now, I feel that this award was not made to me as a person, but to my conviction that both authenticity and inclusiveness in human communication are fundamental to democratic empowerment of people, and eventually to our own existence as caring human beings in this planet. The only place in this enormous universe we and our descendants can live unless we find some other habitable planet before we become post-humans. Each of us working in the communication field attempts in our own way to contribute to the improvement of human communication. That is what I have been doing. I think everybody here, whether you are a communication scholar or not, everybody contributes to improve the human communication. Of course, I am privileged to have been recognized by you for my small contribution to that effect. I wouldn't be able to do any of the things mentioned in the citation by Martin Hadlow without many dedicated people who were in the forefront fighting to improve, fighting to empower those who wanted to be here and those who wanted to receive reliably authenticated information. I was privileged to have worked in UNESCO, which provided with me a good network of people who often understood the prevailing communication challenges and wanted to think out of the box to face them. I am indebted to Choi Arnaldo from the Philippines and in particular to Martin Hadlow, who introduced me today, for connecting me to UNESCO. It was a wonderful organization to work with many networks. In fact, Martin Hadlow was the person who offered me the first UNESCO contract in Cambodia. The key learning I can share in very brief today is that because citation mentioned institutions that I have built, and of course I have done a lot of institution building. To me, the institution building in the media sector cannot be done by focusing solely on the institution itself. Whether you make a community radio, or whether you make a training institute, or whether you make any kind of media institution, or for that matter, any institution. You need to have a clear vision as to why this particular institution is needed and what it is going to achieve in the long run, what other institutions cannot achieve. Because there is no use of replicating institutions if they are going to achieve the same thing. Moreover, you cannot build media institution merely by building capacities of the institution. You would need an enabling environment for the institution to achieve its objectives. This would mean that you will have to help introduce enabling policies and the legal environment. Foremost are the policies to foster freedom of pluralistic expression. I would always call it, rather than freedom of expression, freedom of pluralistic expression, and the safety and recognition of those who are authenticating and contextualizing information for you. The other important dimension of the institution building is developing professional skills and capacities of those who run those institutions. It could be editors, journalists, broadcasters, trainers, teachers, whatever. Their ability to think critically, incorporating the skills in comprehension, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation of unfamiliar material and basic understanding of evidence and research methods are essential if they want us to make sense of what they report or what they teach. The often forgotten aspect of media development is that the media institution can better focus on the functions attributed to them in a democracy if and when societies are sufficiently media literate. Because a media literate society can demand quality services from their media. Together with many others, I contributed to doing certain things which I think have changed or have contributed to change the media ecologies in few countries. There were failures as well, of course, particularly in the areas of policy development, because you cannot impose policies unless there is sufficient public pressure to generate a political commitment for changes you wanted. One small but significant example was that UNESCO supported the local actors in Bangladesh, some of those colleagues are here, to get all the key contesting parties in the general election to recognize in their election manifestos the importance of community radio. So they all praised if they came into power, they will allow the community radio to function, or they will introduce the community radio policy. Today, Bangladesh has a thriving community radio sector. The focus of my attempt all along was to help local actors to develop and own comprehensive strategies to build communication capacities of their own people. Develop on media pluralism, particularly through introduction of community radio, a set of development indicators to ascertain the level of media development so one can focus on underdeveloped areas, along with developing capacity building tools for journalists, such as the journalism education curriculum, to credibly authenticate and contextualize verified information, and tools needed to create media literate societies were all interconnected and reflect this comprehensiveness. I'm humbly grateful for those who have worked with me, including some of my mentors like Martin Hadlow at the very beginning, and of course, as he mentioned correctly, late Tobin Pro. And of course, there are a lot of other UNESCO colleagues who I respect, who has worked and are now retired. And of course, a lot of people who are sitting around here, like Rosario and all these people whom I have been knowing for a long time, working with AMIC, Ramon, Mr. Auditorium and others. And in particular, I had the fortunately, I had the AMIC, which has of course numerous networking possibilities through AMIC meetings, and similarly there were other organizations in the region. So they enabled me to shape my own convictions and contribution. Finally, I wish to underline one important thing to me, which is, this is my, according to my experience, I consider it is very important. That is the importance of media literate societies. Because particularly in this age of so-called alternative facts and post-truth, I think the media literate societies become crucial, and therefore media literacy in the schools also become crucial. Because our very existence as caring human beings will be threatened if we allow the society to deteriorate its ability to think and act rationally. That is why media literacy matters. Ultimately, the purpose of our communication, including through media, should remain to be the same, which we know as human enlightenment. Thank you so much for awarding me this honor.
Thank you, Vijayananda Jayawira, for that message, and thank you for sharing that message with us. On AMIC's part, the award, I know my colleagues would agree with me, is really our way of showing gratefulness to our exemplary colleagues who are really making a lot of difference in the field of media, communications, and allied fields. Okay, a bit of